Dr. Okwevanwu, your fearless immigration attorney, out tonight again to talk to you about something very important as we are talking about immigration or JAPA, if you like, to USA, UK, and Canadian embassies for many Nigerians. This broadcast today is focused mostly on the Nigerian community, even though this is also applicable to almost any other country in the world, but Nigeria as a special case study. 11 reasons Nigerians often get denied visas at USA, UK, and Canadian embassies, with special emphasis on the US side of this. Because contrary to perception, US depends on immigrants to maintain its edge. USA is a country of laws, procedures, and documentation. And they are always looking for fresh blood. They're always looking for fresh, qualified people, especially, I'm talking about skilled workers, simply because that is just the way the American system is built. Same way with UK, same way with Canada. They are all desperately looking for new, fresh blood, particularly qualified ones, of which we have almost unlimited in Nigeria. Yet a lot of our people get denied visas. Sometimes in a way that leaves the person more or less like incredulous that I just got denied. Somebody ordinarily that should not have to worry about being denied visa goes to the embassy, comes back with almost in tears or frustrated or disappointed or even embarrassed because at their level they are not supposed to be denied a visa, but it happens more often than not. So I want to do this quick video just to educate some of my brothers and sisters out there that sometimes or most times the problem is not the United States, it's not the embassy, it's not the consular officer. Most times the problem is you or the country that you belong to. And if you're aware of some of this stuff, you can actually use it to help yourself to avoid unnecessary denials. I'm not saying that even when you get everything ready, they may not deny you, but most times you probably have committed one of those mistakes that allow them to deny you without any reason from your own point of view. So let's quickly look at these 11 reasons that I put together that I think from my years of experience. I've been admitted to the New York bar since 1997, and I started my immigration practice in that 1997, and also admitted, of course, to the Federal District Court of Nebraska, where I actually live. And right now, I'm the founding partner of a 20% law firm right here in Omaha, Nebraska. So I do know what I'm talking about. Over the last 25 years or so, we have helped more than 10,000 clients, some to get their green card, some to avoid deportation, and help lots of people to process their visa, different types of visas to come to the US from different countries all over the world. So I do know what I'm talking about. So here are the 11 reasons for the peculiar problems in the application process for visas in Nigeria. Number one, we need to understand that Nigeria has been designated. Okay, they will not make a lot of noise about it, but the unfortunate fact is that Nigeria is high on the USCIS, that's the immigration, I keep saying immigration service, but it's really USCIS for the full acronym. Okay, Nigeria is high on the list of high visa countries. You know, the people in America, they are not spirits, that they are human beings. And when they see something over and over and over, then they start to take particular notice of that country. Eventually, you make it to their list. On that list of high visa countries, according to the USCIS right now, Nigeria is one of them. Of course, you have China, you have Ghana, India, Kenya, Mexico, Pakistan, Philippines, Yemen, and I think Morocco. So you are having right now about maybe 8 or 9, about 9 or 10 high visa fraud countries in the world. And Nigeria is on there. What does that mean? That means that your applications are now over scrutinized. They would rather err on the side of denying you than even giving you the benefit of doubt, because they already assume when you're sitting in front of them that what you have in your hand is fraudulent. That is why you have to be very careful. You have to over document the way you carry yourself, the way you document your process. And we're going to come back to that in a minute. Number two reason why there seems to be a high visa denial at the Nigerian embassy for American for American visas, UK, and to a large extent Canada also, is ignorance about the various visa options available to your situation, particularly in America. See, there are so many types of visas out there that you can actually get. And if you go to the embassy, apply for the wrong one applicable to your case, they're going to deny you. They don't owe you an explanation to tell you, oh, go and apply for this type of visa. No, they are going to judge you based on the visa you are applying for in front of them. And if you're applying for the wrong visa, they're going to deny you. Maybe you're an athlete. You want to go to the US to go do what you do. Maybe you're a musician, you're an actor or actress, and then you're going there applying for a B1, B2 visa. Obviously, when you could have applied for a P visa or an O visa, they're going to deny you. Or let's say you're a journalist, you want to go and cover an event in the US. The proper visa to apply for is the I visa for journalists. But you probably don't even know what an I visa is. You don't know. And then you go in there, you say you want a B1, B2, and they are looking at you. Look at this one. He wants to go and work as a journalist. He wants to go and do journalist work in the US, but he's applying for B1. They deny you. But they are not going to tell you that this I visa you should go and apply for. That is the problem there. So a lot of people are ignorant about the types of visas out there. And because of that, I wrote a book that I want to encourage every one of you to get. If you are watching this, let me look for the link for that book. That book is called USA Visa Without Tears. In other words, it explains the different types of visas that are available for you in the US. And so you can get that book and then use that to be able to identify the one that you qualify for. Because what I did was basically not long English. It contains information you can probably find anywhere online. But what I do is I compiled it for you in a very nice way. I mentioned the visa and I let you know the specific things they are looking for you to qualify. So you can go through that, isolate the ones that you think is best for you before you actually go to the embassy. So you can get that book at okpebanwo.net, USA Immigration Without Tears. USA Immigration Without Tears. You can get that book in there. So you go through it, and then if you really want to now book an appointment to get a lawyer to talk to you, then you want to book an appointment on that same page with me, okpebanwo.net. So let's keep continuing. Right now we are talking about about 11 different reasons why Nigerians seem to have a high case of denial of visas. Number 3 that we're just talking about, application for the wrong visa. See, number 2 is ignorance about the type of visas that that applies to your case. The number 3 is application for wrong visas. Okay, you win or lose based on what you ask for. So if you ask for the wrong visas, they're going to deny you, not necessarily tell you what to do. So the two are related. Number 2 is ignorance. If you know what you're supposed to apply for, then you go there. Many of us even think we don't qualify for anything, or we keep focusing on the wrong visa because we don't know the differences. That's why I wrote that book. Number 3, application for wrong visas. You are going to win or lose based on what you ask for. They are not going to give you what you didn't ask for. And if you ask for the wrong visa, which as I was talking about earlier, if you're supposed to be asking for an I visa and you're asking for B1, B2, they're going to deny you. All right. Number 4, underestimation of the capabilities of the US Embassy to investigate your claim. This is very critical. A lot of us in Nigeria, we assume that these immigration people, they cannot go to the village to check your story. But what you keep forgetting, what many don't know, is that the American Embassy, especially that one I know firsthand because I practiced there, okay? I practiced immigration law in the US, 25 years now, remember? They actually have agents on ground that are like you and me, Nigerians, that they've hired. Is their job to go investigate some claims for them. These people will go to your village. These people will go to places you don't imagine that they can go to. I always give a lot of practical stories about this that will blow your mind. I've had a situation where they actually went to the hospital to go and check about the validity of a birth certificate of somebody's child. Let me just put it that way. without necessarily identifying whatever. But trust me, this one I have personal knowledge of it. Okay. And then they got there. This person was even smart enough to have gone to make sure the birth certificate is registered in that hospital, which was really not where the child was born. But they tested the ink. They had this thing, they go in there. Their report was that, yeah, we saw the name in that hospital, but the ink that they used to write the birth certificate of this child is different from the one that was above and the one that was below. That is how thorough they can be. Don't underestimate them. Whatever document you're going to be submitting, backstop it. Is what I always tell people. Make sure when this thing will stand scrutiny. You cannot just assume they're not going to check. I also have a story of somebody working in a bank. Works in a bank. I was earning great salary from that bank. But she had a 4-month period that she went on maternity leave for 2 months, and then I think took an extra 2 months of her own just to take care of her baby. So for those 4 months, the salaries in her account were not the way it was before and after. But she needed to file for a special visa that required to show a 12 months salary. So rather than wait after she has gone back to work now, of course, wait to get 12 continuous months of the good salary thing, what she did was that she went and forged those 4 months where she was off. She actually put the exact salary she used to earn. So it was not as if she was even lying about her earning capability, but that documentation was not correct because she wasn't earning that money that time. And lo and behold, somebody flagged it and they went and investigated with the bank. They got the correct bank statement, and it shows that the one that she generated was not actually the correct one. And that earned her a permanent bar from the US. So don't underestimate the capability of the US or even the UK or Canada to investigate. US is more notorious for this. Number 5, poor or careless documentation, even when your case is genuine. A lot of Nigerians, they take documentation for granted. They don't take their time to gather all the documents that is needed to support their case, even though their case is true. You are saying, oh, you are a researcher. You have been researching for the last 10 years, and it's probably true, but you didn't take your time to document every year when you go for the interview. You're just saying, maybe you just go with one miserable 1-page letter from somebody saying, oh, yes, he used to research here for 10 years. Many times they're going to turn that down because they know anybody can get you a letter. But when you take your time to actually get not just testimonial, documentation of the research that you did, copies of it and stuff like that, gather it to the point that when they look at it, especially for those esoteric visas like EB1, EB2, O visa and P visa that is filed abroad, documentation is the key. You can't just say I was a researcher for 10 years. You can't just get your boss to write you a letter. You have to be able to substantiate it with some of the materials you research in that 10-year period, some testimonial with people you did research with, documentation of what you did. More is better than less when it comes to documenting your statement of fact with American Embassy. But people are careless. They just assume they're going to go there and just tell them or bring one letter that they drafted themselves and then expect that they're going to be granted. Number 6, and this is important, lack of follow-up in cases of wrong denials. Sometimes people go to the embassy and they deny their visa for maybe the wrong reason. And then they even put it, sometimes they write a section of the law on that letter they gave you. Most don't even bother to read it. They give you the green letter or blue letter because there are 3 different types. Many don't even know what that meant. I'm not going to go into that today. But when they give you your letter and you believe that the reason they gave you for denying you was wrong, but because you are really not desperate to come to the US, you just don't bother, you just walk away. That is the worst thing you can do because that reason stays on your record. 5-10 years later, when you now decide that, oh, you really need to go to America and maybe you have a business there, or you have a child there, or you have something important you need to do, that thing that was wrong 5 years ago will keep haunting you today. I had a client once who was a computer executive. Our company at one point was one of the top 2 or 3 computer companies in Nigeria. When she was young, she wanted to go abroad to go marry a fiancé. That was when she was just starting her business. And then she was at the embassy, according to her, and assuming, let's just say for purpose of illustration, Our real name is, let's say our real name is Miss Taiwo. Her father's name is Taiwo. Just for, not real name, of course, for confidentiality. And then the person she wants to go and marry, say, let's say, Mr. Adesanwo. So she's sitting down there and they are calling Mrs. Adesanwo, Mrs. Adesanwo. She was not yet Mrs. Adesanwo. She's just a fiancée of the guy. So she didn't answer. She probably thought they are trying to trick her. So she didn't answer. And then after a while, they attended to somebody, then came back and called Miss Taiwo, which is her real name because she was not yet married. So when she went to the counter, the officer now said, why didn't you answer when I called Mrs. Adesanwo? And she was like, I'm not Mrs. Adesanwo yet. I'm still Miss Taiwo. That's why I didn't answer. And then the woman denied a fiancé visa at that time and then put a note in her record that she lied to immigration officer, which is not true. But because she really wasn't keen about going to US other than to go get married, it was not a fake marriage. The person she wants to go and marry was her old sweetheart in a university. But she was just an up-and-coming aggressive girl, just building her business. So she didn't care. She's like, well, fuck you guys. She just left the whole thing. And in fact, ended up marrying somebody else. Didn't bother with that. But fast forward to 20 years later, now she's the most successful computer person in Nigeria. She now has her kids who want to go abroad now. Because now they go to Corona, they go to all those big boy schools. Now they want to go for summer. All of a sudden, Madame took them to the embassy to get visa for them. They were denied because they said she lied to immigration officer 20 years ago. What was sad about this case was that this person was actually the one, a company. It was not as if she's not known. Our company is the one supplying computer to the American embassy. She was even a member of the Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce, even though she doesn't live in the US. She has done events where the ambassador came there, but the ambassador couldn't even get her visa. After about 5 or 6 years of chasing it and not getting it, is when they even contacted us. We also tried to get this done because now we have to do a waiver. The lawyers she has hired before did not even do the right things because they are not American trained immigration lawyers. They are lawyers in Nigeria. They are trying their best, but they didn't go about it the right way. What they should have done was to file a waiver. And when you're filing a waiver, you cannot be denying that the record is a lie. See, you have to admit it's like asking for parole. You can't go to before the parole board and be saying I'm innocent. They already found you guilty. Right? So if you go to parole, if you're going to get parole, it will be wrong advice if your lawyer is telling you to challenge the conviction. No, you're going to go to the parole and say, I'm sorry for what I did. You got to admit responsibility before they give you parole. It's a funny thing. In our own case, there has been a record against her that she lied against immigration officer. She did not challenge it within the 30 days that she could have appealed it. She let it stay there for 20 years. Now they are applying for waiver for her and they are contesting those facts. You can't do that. It's a simple technical thing. But that's what they've been trying to do for 5 years and they kept getting denied. So by the time I got in there, now trying to fix that problem. What's the problem? Fixing the problem that the lawyers created. To cut a long story short, I also represented them for another 3 years. We still couldn't solve the problem. We met with the ambassador even. The ambassador said, I cannot waive the decision of the officer that made the decision for you. I'm not a consular officer. I cannot do that. To cut a long story short, she died before this case was resolved. It wasn't resolved until she died. I'm talking about 9 years trying to overturn what happened 20 years ago. So when you are denied, don't just walk away. Even if you're not interested in going to US, you got to get hold of your lawyer to try to at least set the record straight. Yes, you are not entitled to appeal if it's just a B1, B2 visa, but you can write a letter for reconsideration. There's an email you can send. Your lawyer can help you write an email, and it will be like you are even the one that wrote it, and there's an email you can send it to. At least that will be in your file. Explain that this thing they said is not true. This is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. That might help you 15 years from now when you need to go back there. I've had people that have told me 15 years ago, I don't care about US. I don't want to go to US. Even if they give me visa, I'm not going to go. But today, they're begging me to help them look for O visa or P visa. You know why? Things can change. So don't just assume the way things are today is the way they will be 15, 20 years from now. So you got to follow up professionally when you get a wrong denial, not just a basic stuff. All right, number 7, reason why people get denied visas at American embassies mostly is impatience to plan ahead and reluctance to take the time to put your ducks in a row. Sometimes some of my clients, I tell them you are 6 months or 1 year away from even being able to apply. Don't rush it. Take your time to document this. It's like somebody wants to apply for L visa. One of the requirements of L visa is that you must have worked with that company for at least 1 year in Nigeria, right? Some of them, maybe they just realized after they had you talk about L visa, which is intra-company transfer, which is basically a company in Nigeria sending an officer of their company abroad to start a local branch, which is one of the easy visas to get if you put it right. It's like sending your staff from Lagos to start a branch of your company in Akure. So same way, you have a company in Nigeria, you want to send somebody to go start a branch of your company in the US. The requirements are surprisingly easy to get because what they focus is on your Nigerian company. Has it been around for more than 3 years? Have you worked there for a year? Do they have tax returns? Do they have organogram? Do they have a business plan of what they want to go do in the US? Basic stuff that you can get with some industrious some research and work with your lawyers. So this gentleman had a big brother who had a big company, because it has to be a company that has organogram. It doesn't have to be big, but it has to be a structured company. So in I said, oh, my brother will help me. He will put me as senior manager in this company so that they can then file L1 for me to go to US. And I keep telling this person, you are supposed to show 12 months paycheck. If you are not working with them right now, maybe you are 12 months away from filing this. Talk to your uncle, let them put you on their payroll and then be going to the company every once in a while, even if you are not working full-time there. I said, no, blah, blah, blah. They went, and then he went and, of course, arranged the pay stuff. I didn't represent that person because I knew the person wasn't working in that place there. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. But got somebody else, unfortunately, a Nigerian-based immigration lawyer who really knows what he's doing, but it's not an American trained, and there's a big difference. I'm not trying to shade my brothers in Nigeria. It's like me trying to file a case in Lagos High Court now. I'm going to need a local guy to help me out because I don't know the procedures too much. You know, I probably will be calling my lord, your honor, out there, even though your honor is used for magistrate in Nigeria. We use that for the High Court here. And it actually did happen to me. So I'm not trying to shade anybody. Procedures are different. And then, of course, they now said, bring pay stubs for the last 12 months. Of course, he brought the pay stubs, but the pay stubs does not match his bank account. If you got a paycheck and you deposit to your check, the paycheck is supposed to reflect the exact amount in the bank. To cut a long story short, permanent ban. Because he was impatient to plan ahead. Some of the visas that you may qualify for may require 3 or 4 months of meticulous planning before you even get your lawyer to file it for you abroad. And I tell my clients that you want to file for EB1 or EB2 or O visa, you have that a lot of documentation you have to give. Sometimes it take you 4 months of putting it together to finally be ready. But Nigerians are not. They want to do it now. And then they start forcing themselves to go and get documents that do not apply. So, or they forge it, even though it's their own company. They still forge documents that they could take time to generate. Number 8, lack of adequate prep for consular interview. I cannot overemphasize this. You may have all the documents in the world. You may have all the qualifications in the world. But if you are not properly prepped by your lawyer, you can actually make a mistake and not even know you are making a mistake. For instance, if the type of visas you are applying for is the type that has that doesn't have dual intent. Dual intent is that when you go to the US, so if dual intent is you are saying you want to go temporarily, but at the same time you want to stay permanently in the US. Most visas don't allow you to do that. So if you are going as a temporary visa, like a B1, B2, or any of those other temporary visa thing, you are not supposed to have an intention of staying permanently in the US. So if you have application, somebody has filed for you for a permanent stay, that will be a problem. If your lawyer prepped you well, he will have told you, you can't do this, or this is how you handle it when you get to the embassy. But most people are not prepped. That's the way when they're asking you questions about ties to your country. That's a very, very big part of getting F1, B1, and some of those visas. If your lawyer did not prep you well how to establish that, you're just going to get denied, because they're going to say you have not convinced me that you have no intention of staying permanently in the US. So prep is important, so that every conceivable a question they may ask you that is important, your lawyer could go over it with you. But most of us don't prep. We just like to give money to somebody, and then that somebody just gathers stuff together for us and just gives us, and then we go to the embassy. Sometimes we win, but many times we lose, because many of those guys collecting that big money from you to do some of this stuff, they're just guessing. They don't know. They themselves don't even have a visa, but they will tell you, we have an arrangement with somebody there, and then you fall into that. You need adequate preparation. Number 9, inconsistency between documentation and verbal presentation at the interview. A lot of us go to the embassy, we don't even read the documents that we have been given. Maybe somebody prepared all of them for you and they just carry it. You don't read it thoroughly to be able to understand what is there, so that when you are questioned on it, you don't go be talking and start mumbling. But it happens more than you can believe. And I'm talking from people who are even experienced. I'm talking about people who have means. I'm not talking touts here. I'm talking about correct, educated people. You just gather all those documents, you carry it, you have not even read it through. So when they open it and they ask you a question on page 4, you don't even know what they're talking about. And or you say something totally different between documentation and verbal presentation. In fact, a lot of people that have been sent back from the point of entry is because of this problem. Because somebody helped you to get the visa. They put documentation together for you, and then you've gotten the visa and you're so excited. And then you get to the point of entry. They ask you questions because someone concerning the form that you filled in Lagos. But because you're not the one that filled the form, the tag that you got filled the form. So some of the stuff he put, something as simple as state of birth or state of birth of your parent, something basic. Maybe they got that wrong. And then you, at the point of entry, they ask you, you give them a different answer. You're not entering the US, you're coming back. That is why you get a lot of people being turned back at the point of entry, because it's no longer guaranteed. You can get a visa in Lagos. It's not a guarantee that you're going to enter the US, because they will do another interview there now, because you're from Nigeria. Sorry about that. And if your story in Lagos is not consistent with the one in the US, you're done. Number 10, I got to go. My time is almost up. I only have 2 more minutes. Culture of shortcut and gambling for quick results. Nigerians don't like to follow due process. Somebody tells you, oh, I can get you a visa. He himself has never been to US. He's never had a visa before in his life. But that's the person you are relying on to help you get your visa. And Nigerians pay crazy money to these guys. Some of them will tell you, I have an in at the embassy. Sometimes they do. But what they don't tell you is that these people are switched out every 6 months, at least the American embassy. Most times they switch them out every 6 months because they know Nigerians are going to corrupt them by the time they are 6 months in the country. So American embassy too, they switch them out. So maybe the person they knew, by the time they're collecting your money, is no longer there. Now you're on your own. You go in there and then you're talking la la la. They get you for lying to an immigration officer. They give you permanent bar and you're crying. Meanwhile, and I'm talking about people who are even qualified, when you could have taken your time to go through the proper process. Yeah, it might take you 6 months extra, but would you rather not do it right than to do it in a way you get denied and you get banned for life? So we like shortcut, and we don't have a problem patronizing touts because somebody say, oh, it's helping people to get visa. You don't have a problem giving him your money, but you don't even want to pay a lawyer who is trained to do this. All right, finally, 11th reason, absence of dedicated attorneys specializing in consular processing. Yes, it is true. There are great lawyers who will help you with some of this stuff in Nigeria, but many of them are not trained in immigration law in the US. Many of them are learning on the job. Many of them are just doing guesswork. So there are not enough of them. that are really good or that are dedicated to this. So every Dick and Harry can get into the game, collect your money, and then you start whistling. So this is part of these are the 11 reasons. My time is up. I'm sorry, it's supposed to be a 30-minute thing. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to book an appointment with me, please go to okpebanwo.net for us to talk. You book the appointment and then you set the time that is convenient for you, and I will be there. We can do one-on-one on Zoom. I do Zoom interviews for your own personal discussion on what you might be qualified for. All right, I will see you in another video coming up soon. This is Dr. Okpebanwo, and I look forward to seeing you on the consultation at okpebanwo.net, or you can also get my book there, USA Visa Without Tears, on okpebanwo.net. God bless you, and I'm out.